Look, I'm not gonna mince words. This is the XM5 review you've been waiting for. It's the XM5 review I've been waiting for. See, ever since the XM3 came out, don't ask where the XM1 and 2 went, nobody knows. Since the XM3 came out, Sony has been swinging for the fences. And they've been missing. There was a lot of work to be done. So Sony went back to the drawing board and spent 2 years coming out with this, the WF-1000X Mark IV, and man did they knock it out of the park. But it has some pretty big flaws as well. But that's okay, because Sony then did something really strange. Just a few months after the XM4, they came out with the Earbuds S, and they literally took all the flaws of the XM4 and improved upon them and put out a new product. It's almost as if they want to get better. And over the last couple of years, I've been getting regular firmware updates that have been constantly improving the experience of both the X Mark IV and the Earbuds S, and even adding features. So when they said the XM5 is coming out, I had to get a copy. Did they solve the mic issue? Did they solve the battery issue? Did they solve the fitment issue? There's so many things to get into, and we're about to get into all of them. And without giving too much away, I'll be announcing a giveaway later in this video, so you'll want to watch this one all the way. Now, the first thing you notice when you get your hands on the X Mark V is that it's actually significantly smaller than the X Mark IV. This is very much like the Earbuds S, and that's a good thing because the case is now much more pocketable. You also have a little reset button on the back, so you no longer have to depend on a gesture to go into pairing mode, which is great for new users who don't know the Sony gestures. This is a good thing. When you open the case, you realize that the earbuds themselves are also significantly smaller. This is huge, given the fact that they come with extra small tips as well, means that they're finally good for smaller ears as well. This is a very good thing for us as well as for Sony, just to sell more earbuds. Now, I like the change in design as well, but they've still got the strong magnets holding the earbuds to the case, and they've got a really smooth finish to the sides, which makes them a little bit difficult to take out of the case, just like last time, but that's okay. I'm nitpicking, right? Now, the first thing I thought when I saw the small earbuds and the small case was, did they compromise on battery life? And the answer is no. So they claim 8 hours of battery. Realistically, if you're using it with LDAC, with active noise cancelling on, and volume at about 50, maybe 60%, honestly, this gets really loud, then I got easily 5 hours on a single charge. But there is more to it, and we'll get to that in a second, because I want to circle back to the fit just for a second. It's true, it is better in the ear than the X Mark IV, but when these in my ear, they fit fine, but when I go for a run, they bounce up and down a little bit. This was a problem with the X Mark IV as well, and the issue is the same. It's the form factor. It's the same issue that Technics AZ60 has. You have this one point where it anchors into your ear, and the rest of the earbud goes up and down and therefore bounces around. This one was big and bulky. The new one is smaller, it's lighter, and therefore doesn't bounce around as much. But with the hybrid foam tips, I feel like the stem is a little bit on the looser side, and with all this bulk anchored just on the stem, it moves the stem about. Either ways, I think this is something they could work on, because at $300, I find it very awkward to tell the audience you may have to go for a third-party set of foam tips. Nonetheless, for most people, I think it'll fit just fine, and I think this is a massive improvement from the previous generation. Now, there have always been an imbalance in the battery usage between left and right ears on the Sony earbuds. The Earbuds had them, the Sony X Mark IV had them, and the Sony X Mark V had them. And yes, I disabled Google Assistant, and it still happens. Now, there is a silver lining in that the asymmetric battery drain only becomes worse when the battery is low. So below 30%, the asymmetry becomes quite noticeable, and also below 30%, the battery indication itself becomes a little bit unreliable. Both of these, I want to say, is okay because it doesn't really affect your overall battery life, but I feel like that's just me coping with the fact that I like the XM5, because the fact is, at $300, you shouldn't have to deal with this. This should not be a problem. And you know what? Before I get into the rest of the features, and there are a lot, there's an elephant in the room I absolutely have to address. Okay, so this is the Sony X Mark IV. That's right, the previous version in a lot of traffic, which, as every YouTuber knows, is where all the best conversations, most important conversations take place. Chances are you can hear the problem, right? There's a lot of background noise, and my voice probably isn't coming across as clearly as it should. And I am speaking loudly now. This is not normal conversation voice. Like, if I was speaking normal conversation voice, it would sound more like this, and the problem just gets worse. Hang on. I'm sorry, I'm just getting a phone call. Hello? Yeah, hi. Samsung Dex. No, I'm not. I have no plans of making a video on Dex. No. I didn't say change it to X. No, do not change anything to X. Don't change the name. Hello? Can you hear me? Can you? Hello? I think he hung up on me. This could be a problem. Oh no. It's okay. It's all right. We'll fix this. I'll call him back. It's fine. I've got the XM5 now. There's no way Sony hasn't upped their game, right? I'm sure they fixed the mic. Let me just call him back. Yeah, hi. Can you hear me better now? Don't change it. Don't change. What am I going to tell my subscribers? X at me on X. Like this doesn't work. This is so awkward. Just listen. Just forget I said anything. Hello? He hung up on me. That could be a problem. That could be a problem. I'm sure it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Let's get back to the features, yeah? There's a ton of them. There always has been with the Sony IEMs, but they've increased it further now. For one thing, they've added some really useful stuff. Multi-point is now next level. So you've got the Android-only multi-point, where you've got unlimited devices connected to the same Google account. You can switch between them seamlessly. Then you've got up to 2 devices on any ecosystem, switching seamlessly once again. Plus, you've got some nice to-haves. Like, for example, if you've got a previously paired device that's not currently connected, you can pull the connection away by going to the Bluetooth settings menu of that device and switching to the XM5. You can also switch using the app itself. It'll show you all your previous paired devices. Overall, I think multi-point works kind of like it should. And if you've got 17 devices on your table, like some kind of freak, and all of them are connected to the same Android ecosystem, then that's okay, because a notification will pop up on the device that this is connected to. So even you're covered. Now, apart from that level of functionality, there's a whole bunch of other things they've added and a whole bunch of things they've kept from the X Mark IV, like geolocation-based noise cancelling. Basically, you can geofence an area anywhere in the world and say, when I go there, switch to this noise cancelling mode or that level of ambient sound, and it works. I think this is the sort of thing that's a solution where there is no problem, because honestly, you're one tap away from switching and noise cancelling modes, but it's there, it's customizable, it can be useful, nice to have. You also get speak to chat, which I've never used, because if I so much as laugh at a funny video, it'll just go into transparency mode. I much rather just go into transparency mode when I need to, or touch and hold the left earbud to go into transparency mode, have a conversation, let it go, and it just goes back to noise cancelling. Again, these are all features that are nice to have, but they're not a must-have. They've also added spatial audio, they've added head tracking, and the ability to answer calls by nodding your head or reject calls by shaking. Honestly, the nodding head thing works fine, but in my testing, the reject call, it worked on and off, and it was really difficult and finicky. So if you really need to reject a call, you might just want to reach for your phone. So yeah, Sony is maintaining its track record of adding a lot of features that may or may not be very useful to you. The multi-point thing is cool, but the big feature that I wanted them to fix was the touch controls. There's nothing wrong with the touch controls, but Sony has always had this policy of allowing you to only select a certain set of touch controls and assign them to a ear, meaning you cannot individually choose which gesture does what, which a lot of cheaper earbuds in the market also do. So really, this is where they're caught lacking. This time, they've addressed the issue. Not only have they added customizability for double tap and triple tap, they have added a volume control, and all of it is absolutely ineffective. Get this right, so they've got 2 and 3 taps that you can customize now, but you can only assign it to playing your favorite Spotify track. And by the way, I tried it, it didn't even play it. There was some kind of bug, it didn't even work. It's an absolute waste of a gesture that is clearly some kind of co-branded deal that I think is a disservice to anyone paying $300 for this. Customized controls is a must at this point. Sony, what are you doing? But you might say, hey, at least they've added volume controls. Well, yes, but they've done it in the most meaningless way possible. There is an additional gesture for volume control now, but it is 4 taps. If you want to go from 20 to 70%, you're going to have to tap yourself like 735 times, because 4 taps will only get you about 5-6% of the way there each time. And you have to do it at the right cadence, otherwise Sony just thinks you're 3 tapping and then slapping yourself on the side of your face like the freak that you are. This is not ideal. It's there, it can be handy, but it's really not ideal. Don't get me wrong, the touch controls that are there work fine, but I think more customizability would have been a good thing here. Also, a really neat little thing, if you're on a phone call with noise cancelling on, then you can now have it go into a slight transparency mode where your voice comes in more naturally and you might be more comfortable with that. It's a nice thing to have. I know some people are bothered by their occluded voices. There you go. They fixed it. Oh, and I nearly forgot to mention, there's also fast charging. Even if both earbuds are drained completely and you put them back in the case, you do have fast charging, and the first 5 minutes should theoretically give you 25 to 30% back. However, even the charging up is asymmetrical for some reason, which means, for me at least, the left earbud was caught at about 16-17%, while the right earbud was 27%, which is really unacceptable. Now, once you charge it for at least 8 minutes or so, you get near that 50% mark, and I found at that point, the asymmetry becomes more balanced. It's within like 3 or 4% of each other. So I would suggest fast charging is good, but charge it for at least 8 minutes at a time to have equal charge on both earbuds. As long as you've got 10 minutes at hand, you can get back half your charge, which is potentially at least 2.5 hours of playtime. So that's not bad. But I know the main reason you've come here is to find out how this thing sounds. Sound quality, transparency mode, and active noise cancellation, all of which I have measured, and I'm about to go into major detail, but all my measurements are uploaded on this website here that you can check out. You can compare the measurements with other earbuds. For example, the active noise cancellation of the XM5 versus the Bose QC2. This is what it looks like. Now, you see the top line there? That's a reference line. That's the noise signal. The bottom two lines are the noise cancelling performance. The lower these lines are, the more noise is cancelled, the better the performance. And as you can see, the Bose QC2 is still by and large lower than the XM5. Yep, the Bose is still king, but the XM5 is a close second and is still better than most other things on the market. But here's the XM5 compared with the XM4, and straight away you see that the difference isn't that much, but there is a difference, and the X Mark 5 is in fact an incremental improvement over the X Mark 4, which is a good thing. For my money though, if you've got foam tips, it's a bit of a toss-up. You could just go with the XM4. If you still have it, you'll get almost the same level of noise isolation with a good pair of foam tips. Next up is transparency, and here's where the Sony X Mark 4 really falls short. Now you've got 20 levels of ambient sound mode to choose from, and this is what level 20 looks like. The same reference line on top, but this time what we want is a one-to-one reproduction of that line, basically transparency, right? It's giving you your outside sound as is. Unfortunately, that's not the case. The mid-range is where it's closest to the outside sound, but the highs and the lows in your environment will be pulled down a little bit, and that makes everything sound a little muffled, a little unnatural, and a little abnormally emphasized on certain frequencies, which is all hallmarks of not great transparency mode. In the same price range, both the Bose QC2 and the AirPods Pro 2, which I have covered in great detail on this channel, hit that subscribe button, go check out those videos, trust me, they're still the best. This is not that great. It's there, it does the job if you need it, it's got a voice preference mode if you want to hear voices specifically, but it's not the greatest transparency mode you have. But you know what's really interesting? If you choose ambient sound level 1 instead of 20, this is what you get. Now compare this with full noise cancelling mode, and what do you see? Number one, I see that the mids and the highs on the noise cancelling are lower, and therefore noise cancelling does in fact cancel more noises in the mid and high frequencies, but ambient sound 1 actually cancels out more in the bass frequency. So I kid you not, subjectively, while I was using this, there were some situations where I actually preferred using ambient sound mode 1. It just sounded a little more natural. Now tell me, which other channel gives you that kind of information? Still thinking about subscribing? I know you are. While you're at it, I want to talk about giveaways, because I am planning a year-end giveaway. Of course, it's only for YouTube members because I want to give back to the community, but YouTube membership is just $1 a month. $3 we are feeling generous. Think about it. Now, with that out of the way, let's get to the main bit. Sound quality. This is a Sony device. Sound quality is kind of what you're expecting here, and honestly, you get it. Now compared to the X Mark 4, this is a livelier sound where mids and vocals are all pushed forward a little bit. As a result, you do lose that sense of space just a little bit. It's still great. Detail, resolution, finesse. This thing outperforms pretty much every other Bluetooth earbud that I have tried, and I've tried quite a few of them. It is a little heavy on the bass, and that bass bleeds into the mids and makes the mid frequencies, vocals and all that sound just a little bit muddy. But the saving grace is that it comes with an onboard EQ that works wonders. For my taste, In this case, unlike the X Mark IV, I leave the EQ as is. All I do is turn the bass slider down a couple of notches, maybe pull the 2.5K slider up one notch and the 16K slider down one notch, just to ease off that treble, because this is a little bit more treble forward than the previous version and a little more than I personally prefer. So try it out, and if you don't like it, you can always switch back to the custom EQ. Now, if you particularly like the XM4 sound, this EQ actually allows you to achieve that. So what you do is, again, take that bass slider down to 2, but this time 1 kilohertz down one notch, 2.5 kilohertz down 1 or 2 notches, and kind of leave everything else the way it is, and you'll get a more XM4 sound, a little more laid back, a little more relaxed, and a little more spacious. This is easily one of the best Bluetooth earbuds I've heard, far more balanced and far more smoothly tuned than anything else in the market, in my opinion. And as a bonus, not only does it support LDAC and AAC, it also supports low energy audio, so you're likely to get a little more battery life out of it. If your phone also supports low energy audio, feel free to try it out. Alright, so that was a relatively deep dive into the X Mark V. I didn't delve into the features too much because I genuinely think a lot of the features are good to haves but not strictly needed. Solutions where there aren't any real problems, but nice to have if you want it, right? Overall, I think the X Mark V is a significant improvement over the X Mark IV in terms of fit, in terms of ergonomics, in terms of features and multi-point as well. And I think the sound signature is going to be a little livelier and a little more to everyone's tastes, while still bringing in that Sony level of refinement. My problem, however, is in actually recommending this device, because at $300, they still need to work on their hybrid foam tips. I cannot recommend someone buy something for $300 and tell them, yeah, you may need to buy extra tips on your own dime, because if you've got large ears, the XM4 is now $200. And that gives you some spare money to buy tips, so that might actually be a better value for you if you've got large ears. If you've got small ears though, this is the better thing. As for mic quality, you saw yourself. Is it a significant improvement or no? You tell me in the comments below. The battery life is another issue. It's good, but you don't expect it to discharge asymmetrically. And you certainly don't expect it to recharge asymmetrically. I could make excuses. I could cope with it and say, hey, it only affects the battery when it's less than 30%. Doesn't really affect your life. You'll still get at least 4 hours 45 to 5 hours of audio out of it. But all of that is me coping, because yes, I love this, but at $300, you shouldn't have to deal with any of that. Now combine that with the fact that usually over a period of a few months, Sony earbuds tend to go down in value a little bit, and the fact that the market is very competitive. Even sub $100, $150, you get great value. It makes me very hesitant to actually recommend the XM5. You are getting a quality product, but here's the deal I'll make with you. Subscribe to this channel and I will keep you updated as firmware updates happen, at least as a community post, or if there's some major change, I'll make another video. And that way we'll keep a track of the price. If the price goes down and they fix some of the issues, then I want to say at $250, I would have recommended this. But again, battery issues at these high price points, really Sony? As of right now, I'll say if you've got the money and you don't care about these issues, you can look past them and you want that sound quality, and if you want some of the best noise cancelling, yes, the Sony X Mark V, all the way. But there are those issues I spoke about, those issues that Sony needs to address. I'll see you in the next one. Stay happy, stay peaceful, stay colorful. Namaste.